On this episode of Inside the Mind of a Hacker, guys, we're going to take a deep dive into my personal favorite, social engineering. Let's begin. So first, I want everyone to gain a bit of understanding around the psychological components of social engineering and how do we do it, why do we do it, what instills someone to give you information, how do we portray to come across as someone and be deceitful, and I guess try and extract them for information as well. We're going to look at methodologies on how and what exactly how to do social engineering, why we intend to do it. As well, we're going to look at prevention mechanisms as well. So if you are looking at how to prevent social engineering from happening within corporate environments, as well as how do we prevent it from ourselves from giving information out to other people as well, which could be a potentially a social engineering attempt. So let's begin. All right. So in the first component, psychological, I want you all to sort of think around social engineering, and social engineering is just basically being a con artist. In my opinion, you know, you have to deceive someone, pretend to be someone you're not, and try and get information out of someone, whether it's, you know, any type of information. It doesn't have to be valuable information. It could be just extracting information and just being curious about, you know, a particular situation. And, you know, and it comes into two characteristics. One is fear. We're likely to get more information quicker if we instill fear into someone. You know, if I'm coming across as a policeman with a hat and uniform, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, you're probably going to respond and coordinate with me, right? The problem with fear is I might start asking some questions around that. I can say, you know, why are you asking me these questions? I did nothing wrong, and then I can probably start being more inquisitive on why are you asking me all these questions? I did nothing wrong. I'm here, or whatever the case may be. So with fear, you know, you're probably likely to remember the person that tried to get information out of you. Whether if you're trying to intimidate someone, on the other hand, I think that's probably a better approach. It's probably a slower approach. However, I think it's more beneficial to intimidate someone and sort of act a level beyond that. Now, let's just take an example as if we're trying to social engineer a company, for example. Now, if you call up a company here in Australia, such as, you know, one of the big companies here in Australia, and, you know, you just call them up and you pretend to be someone from the company or whatever, chances are it's not going to work. However, if you do proper reconnaissance and you realize that, you know, the company up here has maybe 5 different directors, you know, the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CMO, the CSO, or whatever. And we realize that the CEO has an executive assistant, the CFO has an EA as well, and they all have EAs. And let's just say we want to target the CEO, because obviously how fun is it to target the CEO, right? So that's going to be our target. And obviously now we've done some reconnaissance on this particular company, XYZ, and we know where their head office is. We know which location they're based in. We know where all their offices are. We know what's his name. We know his name. We know his name. We know his name and his name. We know about the family, for example. And we know obviously at a professional level, maybe who they report to and who reports to them, etc. We might even know their travel plans, whether if he's traveling in the near future, he could be on travel now, he could be on sick leave, he could be on whatever the case may be. So we've done proper reconnaissance on this company. Now, let's just say Wendy is the executive assistant. And you know, this guy's called Tom, and Tom's the CEO of the company. And we can try and intimidate maybe the CFO or the CIO or the CMO or someone else and say, look, hey, I'm working with Wendy. You know, working as an EA with Wendy, helping Tom out. And I know Tom's gone away for the next 2 weeks, and I'm just working on some financial reports for Tom. He's asked me to contact you for information and get some information based on this proper report. Now, we obviously have to know what report we're talking about. We can't just throw things into the air and hope that these guys are going to give us some information that, you know, they have no idea about and we have no idea about. We have to be quite specific. So we must know what sort of information there is, whether this company is into mining or they're into, you know, FX trading, or whatever the case may be. We have to do proper reconnaissance on this scenario and understand exactly what information we're trying to get, what information Wendy would have access to, or what information Tom would have access to, and try and intimidate maybe this person or maybe another complete different company from there into intimidating them to give us information that we can deem valuable. And I'll show you some cool things now as well. There's a cool appliance called Spoof Card. And Spoof Card is a really nifty tool. So, you know, when you make a phone call, it's basically going to come up with, you know, your number. You know, if I call Billy and my number is going to come up as, you know, my number, or I can turn my number on private, it'll come up as a private number. With Spoof Card, you can actually spoof the phone calls. So I can make it look like I'm coming in from this particular company. It might have an area, you know, a phone number such as 04 or 02 9221, for example, or 028045, for example, or 038011. Okay, and they might have the same area code of that particular company. And the only variable change is the extension number, or whatever the case may be. So we're getting the same number as the company, and we're coming in as an internal caller. So the receptionist or Wendy or Tom will more likely be to pick up our call because it looks like it's an internal number that's calling. And that's Spoof Card. So we can do some cool things with Spoof Card. You guys can check this out as well. Look, you can record the phone calls. You can send them to your voicemail. You can disguise your voice as a man or a woman. You can change the pitch in your voice, make it higher and lower. And you can also spoof text messages as well. So if you do know that, you know, if you can get Tom's phone number, who's the CEO, we can spoof it over to Wendy and pretend we're Tom, or whatever the case is. So it's a really cool tool. It works. And I think this is probably one of the better tools. The other one is Crazy Call. I haven't had much experience with Crazy Call. However, I've had other people tell me that it is pretty cool. You guys can all check this out as well and do some research, and maybe tell me what you guys prefer. I prefer Spoof Card. It's just a lot cleaner to use. It's simple, it's easy to use, and it just works like a champ. So it's really great. And that's a bit about fear and intimidation. So intimidating someone into handing over information with us. We want to basically pretend to be someone we're not. However, we want to intimidate this person and pretend that we have authority, in which we probably don't. But you know, we want to deceive them and obviously extract that information from there. Another psychological component is revenge. And just not too long ago, I was doing some research on, you know, on Wi-Fi jamming and 3G and 4G jamming. So jamming cell phone signals and mobile phones and data connections. And, you know, revenge just is simple. So if most IT admins have a level of access that most people don't have access to, we understand maybe how things work. And let's just say, you know, we're working for a particular company and we don't like what that company is doing. We don't like maybe our job, or something's happened with our, you know, our partners or our senior partners in their organization. And we want to take revenge against that company. And I came across this cool tool where this guy, Dennis Nickel, was arrested for blocking cell phone signals in the States. So over in America, he had basically a device, and you can see him here holding the device, which was basically just jamming the signal. So no one can make any phone calls, no one can receive any sort of 3G or 4G connections. So obviously these devices are illegal, but he had a motive where, you know, he didn't like to be annoyed on the train or the bus. So he thought, you know, look, I'm just going to turn everyone's phones off and block the calls. So, and that's what he did. So apparently there was some issues where the police department sort of set up an operation to find it, because people were reporting a particular loss of signal within a typical area or a typical time and route of transportation. And, you know, he got a fine and went to jail for whatever. You guys can read the report. I won't go through too much detail, but, you know, that's a photo of him with a device. I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see it. You know, obviously a little bit of fun, but in the wrong hands, at the wrong time. You know, we don't want to sort of cause any disharm and problems out there. So that's a bit of revenge. So having access over things that most people don't have access to, having a level of revenge or taking revenge on something, maybe for our self-interest. Reciprocation. So if I do something nice for someone, I'm expecting someone to do something nice for me. And I really love using this as a form of social engineering, because it adds a layer of it adds a sort of it probably works with this as well with being a good Samaritan. It works as they both work hand in hand together, I think. So being reciprocal on something is, I'm going to do something for someone, and I'm going to hope that they're going to do something good for me too when I need them to do something. So not too long ago, I was at a hotel here in Sydney, and it turns out by being nice to the people and being nice to the people that are there for breakfast, and the ushers that are there that are saying, oh, you can sit here and you can sit there, and hi, welcome to this hotel. My name is this. If you need anything, please let me know. And they're very nice people. However, some of them are really gullible and naive. And at the time where I was pretending to be someone that I'm not, I'd say, hey, Mary, how are you? How's today going? What time are you knocking off today? I'm doing a big presentation this morning. I'm presenting in front of this CEO and this. And obviously, you've done proper reconnaissance of, you actually know what events are actually happening around this particular hotel or the venue or whatever's happening. So you're going to do your own research and see who's going to be presenting and who's the head honcho there or whatever. And turns out I basically got free breakfast for about, every time I went to that hotel, because they think I'm this person, so they would never question it, and they'll reciprocate in the favor for me, where they'll say, oh, hey, how are you, or whatever the case is, and welcome back to the room, or welcome back to the hotel, and if you need anything, let me know, and that sort of thing. So it just works. People are people respect being appreciated. So if you want to appreciate someone, tell them that they're doing a great job, tell them that, they're wonderful and they're great and everything else. And, you're there to basically exploit that. So being a good Samaritan as well, a good example of this is where we did a physical penetration test one day, and, to get through a specific location in the building, I might carry in some, the easiest way for me to do that was around carrying coffee cups. So, and obviously you have the building facility here, and, and you have the door that you have to go through, and you got a little swipe card, a little swipe pass there, and you have to swipe your badge onto that door, obviously, to let you through. So, being a good Samaritan, what that could do is, here I am with, I'm going to hold a tray of coffee cups, and, I'm going to try and walk in, and, obviously they've got a reception desk behind the door with a lady sitting there, whatever, or her, other friend there, or whatever. And, they're going to see me coming to this door. And obviously my hands are full, so I can't open the door. I'm going to say, I'm here with the CEO. We're having breakfast this morning, or a coffee, and I've got a coffee for him. Can you let me through the door? And, literally about 10 times out of 10, these people are actually going to allow you to get through. Because they're being good Samaritans. They're actually thinking they're doing something good, and this can work for multiple ways. You can be a cleaner, you can be a painter, you can be a cubicle person that's coming in to change the wood of the furniture, for example, whatever the case may be, and that sort of thing. So, being a good Samaritan and reciprocating the favors is the two biggest, I'd say, is in the psychological component of social engineering. Any others? I would say having morals, and obviously, if you watch TV shows, I don't watch a lot of TV, but, there's a lot of good shows out there, such as Blue Collar, I think it is, and, California, where, people are basically just social engineering things. They're pretending to be people and extracting information from people. And I remember one time there was this penetration test that we did on a company, and it was lunchtime, and it was a big company here in Australia where, you have the office here, and, this particular test was, no one should have access to the building after 6 p.m. or to this particular location or this campus. So obviously you have people there sort of, tidying up and ready to go home. And, we were doing this penetration test where, we'd have a person dress up, in a suit and tie, and they look really nice or whatever. I can't draw, but you get the idea. And they walk up to this campus, and they're like, it's 6 o'clock, they're about to close. And I think the time was like 5:50, so not too long before closing. And Michael here walks up to the campus, and he goes, oh, look, I'm starting work tomorrow. I was asked by the CEO, Brent McCarthy, or whatever his name is. And, he said to me, look, I have to have this paperwork ready for him by tonight. Can I please use the printer, and can I please print these off and fax it over to him, because it's really urgent, and I'm working with him on this big project. It's going to cost, $40–50 million worth of revenue for the organization. And I really sort of, I've been running late because there's a lot of traffic and I couldn't find parking and whatever the case may be. And it was just literally a sort of a social engineering attempt on the organization. So it was a physical penetration test to get access to this particular branch. And, and Jill and Mary over there said, yeah, sure, come on through, no problem. We know Barry and he's a great guy and whatever the guy's name was. And basically it was like 6:15 or 6:20. And obviously no one was allowed into that building after 6 o'clock. So, going back then to, the senior IT leaders and telling them what's happened, these two ladies were obviously, had to be spoken to about the scenario and told them what we're doing. And it was a physical issue where, no one was allowed in after 6 p.m. and why was he allowed in, that sort of stuff. So, and they were basically thinking they were being good Samaritans and, they were helping him. But, most times it's a policy where, if it's not allowed, it's not allowed. So there are ways to bypass that. And, most people think that they're a good Samaritan and they're obviously reciprocating to something, which allows, a social engineering attempt to take place. Okay. So nice and easy stuff. Okay. So moving on, some methods on how to implement social engineering. Infiltration is probably the easiest form to do with. If you're working with a particular company and that this company every Friday, for example, go to a park and they just play soccer, and, let's just say they're a big company and, every Friday at 1 p.m., there's about 10 to 15 of these people just playing soccer, kicking the ball around. I'm going to become part of that group and say, hey, I've seen you guys, you come to the park all day. I'm starting a new job here. I'm new, nice to meet you. My name is Andrew and tell me what you do. And they're going to say, oh yeah, we work with this company. I'm the director and this guy's this guy and he's an engineer and he's an architect and whatever. And I've basically infiltrated information. I've now gained the level of understanding who these people are. I know where they're working. I know what time they're here, and then from there, I might just see where they go, if they go to a particular coffee shop, or if they go back to the office afterwards, or what they actually do on a Friday. And then I can try and blend in with these guys as well. And then they can sort of take me under their wing. And, obviously then I can be part of that XYZ company as well. So infiltration is probably the easiest form of social engineering someone and gaining access to something that we don't have access to. The fake admin is probably another easy one. If I'm going to call up a company, for example, and, I'm going to pretend to be the administrator of that company, obviously I'm going to do my own reconnaissance before I do this. So I want to know who's in that IT department and what my role would be when I'm doing this attempt. So, I might cause a denial of service attack on this business, or I might cause a DNS issue, or I might cause a DHCP sort of DHCP starvation attack on this company, and that's going to cause an outage of some sort, right? And then I'm going to send an email to maybe all the employees and say, for those of you that are all having problems with IT today, whether it's a information like an internet problem, or if you can't access the desktop or the laptops, or if you're having problems on your phone or email, please call me on, 041121111111. And I'm going to put my phone number there. And, and then I'll cause a denial of service attack of some sort, cause an issue. And then Jane's going to look at this email and she's going to say, hey, I remember an email came around yesterday saying if I'm having issues with my internet, or if I've got issues with my email address, I'm going to call Andrew from the IT department. And she calls me and she says, hey, Andrew, or whatever. I'm going to, she might call up the help desk number and she'll say, and I'll say, hey, this is Andrew with the IT department, or as you would say, Andrew speaking. And she'll say, hi, my name is Jane. I'm working with the HR department here in XYZ company. And, I just got an email yesterday saying that my username and password's not working, or I can't access the internet. And I say, oh, right, what seems to be the problem? And she'll say, oh, I'm trying to get to this web page. The internet's not loading. And I'll say, great, look, how about I reset your password? What's your current password? And I'll make it really easy for you. And I'll just reset it into the system. And that way it'll just replicate right now. And she'll say, oh, here it is. My password is, I'm just trying to think of a password, but I can't think of anything. She might say it's Monday 55, capital M. I say, oh, great. Thank you, Jane. Here it is, Monday 55. Awesome. And is it working now? And then she might go back and test it, and it's working. So, now I've got her, obviously her name, I've got her username and her password, and I've just been the fake admin, and that sort of worked. Tailgating. Tailgating, guys, is another easy method. I'm just going to clear the screen here so I can just keep drawing with you guys. So tailgating, obviously, if we're into a sensitive location, there might be some sort of barrier in here. And, obviously there's a swipe card there that you have to get through, and then you have to get through another barrier and swipe your card here and then get through that area. And obviously that's the destination. So, you can try and tailgate someone like we spoke about before. If we're trying to, I'm just trying to have a look here, but I didn't save it. But, if we want to tailgate someone, we're going to carry out coffee cups, or we're going to try and gain access to that building and just follow them straight through and say, hey, I'm carrying coffee cups, I'm carrying pizza boxes, or I'm carrying tools and utensils. I can't open the door. Can you let me through, please? And just try and follow them straight through as well. So that's a form of tailgate. Rewards. Guys, rewards is a simple one. If we talk more about rewarding, and, with the rewards, it's pretty simple. If we're trying to social engineer someone, the best form of this would be, obviously to give them some sort of, I guess, reward or a particular outcome of some sort. Now, let's just say there are 5 IT engineers of this particular company, and I've did my reconnaissance, and I know that 2 of them are really active on Facebook. They're posting stuff about their organization. They're saying they're having issues with a particular server or an upgrade of their network. And, and let's just say Billy and, Bob over here, these 2 guys are always communicating somehow, and they're really having issues around a checkpoint appliance. And these 2 guys are trying to upgrade the latest firmware. They've got some, they might post a photo saying, the new server rack is up, the checkpoint file was installed. I'm going to craft a nice little message, and I'm going to say, dear Billy, thank you so much for reviewing our product. We hope you loved our recent checkpoint application. If you have any problems based on this, appliance, if you have any feedback or comments, please use this link here, and we're going to give you a $500 Amazon voucher. And maybe not, or maybe Billy will say, yeah, I want a $500 voucher. I'm a valuable customer. We just spent, X amount of dollars on this new appliance. Sure, I'd love to be part of it. And once he clicks that, he's owned, right? And then obviously we're going to maybe create that into another website, which we then capture his credentials or his usernames and passwords, for example. Or maybe he's just going to go and, take him to another web page, and he's just going to put information about a particular environment that he's working in, such as, host names, IP addresses, feedback, or whatever the case may be. So we can work on that. The next part of that is social. We already spoke about social engineering people through social media channels, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, job posting sites, forums and communities is the big one. We can get information through a lot of those platforms there. Dumpster diving. You don't see a lot of dumpster diving nowadays, but it's still critical in a lot of businesses. And they don't realize the implications of properly securing the data. People might just leave paperwork on the desk, for example, and it's just critical information. And dumpster diving is just basic. You might shred this information. You might then just go into the dumpster of where it goes, and then you're going to try and put it back together again, and hopefully one day it'll all align. Now, if you've got a lot of time, you're probably going to do that, depending on the hacker value of that data. If the value is very valuable, then you're going to spend some time on that data, and you're going to try and put the pieces back together so you can understand what this report was about. Is there anything that's confidential and value to me as well? We already spoke about disgruntled employees or disgruntled methods. If I'm not happy in my job, I'm going to cause some form of disruption. Got an Alibaba email that came through as well. So we're going to be sort of a disgruntled approach. More methods, guys. Reverse social engineering. If I'm going to have the reverse effect, I'm going to try and get. Now, the easiest form of social engineering is trying to get them to initiate the action, right? Now, if I send an email to the IT guy, I want him to click on that link. I might call him and say, hey, Bob, I'm working here with James, and he's in the sales department, and he's the head of sales, and I'm just working with him, but I can't access the G Drive, for example. He sent me a link to this website, and he said to me to access the financial reports on this webpage, but I can't seem to get to him, man. Can you please help me? And, you know, if Billy and Bob are great guys, they're going to say, yeah, man, you know, what's your web address? I'm going to see if I can get to them. I'm going to say, hey, man, look, it's, you know, it's www dot, you know, my file, whatever.com.au. And they'll say, hey, man, you know what? We can get to the site fine. What seems to be the problem? And I was like, oh, by the way, you know, he sent me this IP address. I can't seem to get to it because it's blocked. And I might give him an IP address of, you know, whatever the case might be. I'm just trying to think of a number, 17.11.11.45. And, you know, at this point, that might be a little bit more suspicious on an IP address rather than the main name. But I might just give him that first go and say, hey, look, that works fine. But, you know, he gave me this IP address as well where they're storing some information, but I can't seem to get to it, man. Can you check if my account's blocked or whatever the case is? And, you know, sometimes I might say a 50-50 shot that this will actually work. A lot of seasoned IT people. Now, I've noticed a couple of things. If an IT person is super busy, that's easy. Now, if these guys if they have a layered approach where they need to go through sort of different levels of approval and hop through these different areas, then they're probably not going to fall for that. However, it's still it'll still work. There's been cases where it has worked. There's cases where it hasn't worked, and then you obviously have another backup method, whether you might give them to another host name that you've compromised as well. Tours, guys. Tours are, you know, I highly recommend a method of touring the company. You know, we're doing a physical penetration test of another fitness company here in Australia. You know, and one of the methods was to perform a tour of this company. It was to basically go there, you know, and just have a look around and pinpoint maybe doors that are locked or secure facilities. And obviously, you might think of, you know, a locked facility where it might have some sort of valuable information. And we want to sort of see where the cubicles are. Can we get easy access to maybe Ethernet ports or RJ45 jacks in the wall, for example, and have a look around. Maybe there's a comms rack sitting out there somewhere that doesn't have, you know, a lockable door, or maybe the comms rack itself can't lock, and then you have all the routers and switches there, and that's, you know, a form of social engineering. We can then get access to that. And just by doing a tour, we can look at the facility. We know the layout of the facility. We might know where the CEO sits and the EA sits. And then we can have a sort of a granular level of clarification of how this business operates within this facility as well. So doing a tour works really cool. Workers, guys, you know, obviously you've got, you know, the cable guys, you know, installing maybe fiber connections. You've got the painters doing the painting. You have the janitors, the cleaners. I should say, what am I calling them janitors for? Cleaners. You know, who come around and clean. And these guys are often underlooked, but they've got full access to everything. You know, if you're a cable guy that's coming in over the weekend, or you're painting the building facilities over the weekend, and you have all these workers that are just leaving paperwork on the desks, you know, these guys can just take one quick look at it, and that's, you know, sensitive information breached, essentially. So, you know, that's one form. Then you've got emails as well. So you've got fake URLs, which we spoke about. We've got spear phishing attempts, which we spoke about, you know, sending emails and saying thank you. And we spoke about surveys as well. You know, easy forms of methods, and just social engineering in a nutshell. And it just works, right? People will respond to that, and, you know, they want to be appreciated. So just think of it in terms of that. People want to be told what to do, and if you challenge people, then they have that respect for you, and they'll say, great, you know, then we didn't think of that, but maybe you're right. Or, you know, and just talk to people, summing up a good conversation skills and being able to approach people and pretend to be someone that you're not, just works. So give it a try and see what sort of things you can do. Obviously in a safe environment as well. I don't condone anything bad to happen. Let's move over now to some prevention mechanisms, guys. Clear policies, and we have to enforce them. We have to ensure that everyone's following the proper processes and policies in place. We don't want to have passwords all over our desks, on sticky notes everywhere. And I'd rather have an 8 password policy within our company than having a 16 password policy. You know, and someone with an easy password policy. Let's just take a number plate, for example. Here in Australia, it might be ABC 123. And we can turn that policy, that password into, 4BC ! 2 3. That's probably an easier password for me to remember and for a user to remember than having a 12-digit character with alphanumerics and capital letters and whatever. So having a proper password policy in place that people just have proper etiquette of passwords, and they can remember them, and they know what the passwords are, and it reduces less of a risk of a breach. Physical security, we want to make sure that the appliances are stored in a physical location. It makes no sense if we're moving locations and we have a big building here, and let's just say that that's our room over there, and then you have the street down here, and then you've got the street, whatever, and then you have some set of traffic lights here, and I'll just change the colors here, and I'll make it green, yellow, should be amber, but okay, you get the idea, and red. And obviously, if we have a comp set of, if we've got some gear in here, and we've got like, some switches and routers and servers and that, and they're all facing the street, that's not a good idea. Obviously, we've got glasses and windows here. Someone can break into that, take the data, take the device itself, and then it's just basically a matter of time before they extract the information out of it. So training guys, we want to make sure that our team and our users have sufficient training in place to understand not to click on fishy emails, and to verify if emails are being sent to them from their employer. If Mary receives an email from the CEO who she thinks is a bit weird or just doesn't look right because the CEO won't ask that sort of question, call him, and she should have a right policy in place that says, if this happens, or if you get a suspicious call from me or from someone that appears to be me, and it's not me, then do this. Or if there's a bomb threat, for example, what do we do? What's our scenario? If the business goes down and there's a failure of some sort, what do we do? So there must be a proper scenario in place and proper sufficient training for the team and staff and everyone else in the organization that understands proper cyber hygiene as well. Okay. Background checks. We want to make sure that the people that we're hiring are legitimate, and they say who they say that they are, right? We don't want to hire someone that says they have a formal qualification. They might have a Cisco cert, for example, like a CCIE, and then we test them on CCIE routing and switching, and they have no idea about how switches and routers work. And then that's a huge problem. We want to do sufficient background checks. We want to make sure that they have the qualifications. If we're required to have qualifications, we always want to do a police check, or depending on what level of background check we want to cover. Obviously, they have to have NC1 clearances as well if you want to for the government and that sort of stuff as well. And then email forwarding. We want to track all our emails that outgo our facility, right? So if we have our corporate organization in here, that's our corporate office, and then we have the outside world. Obviously in here we might have an exchange box or whatever mail service that we're using. We want to track any email that gets sent out. Now, let's just say we have Jane over here who works in this company or this particular area of the company. We have Chad in the IT department, and we have Billy over here in HR, IT. And let's just say the HR department shouldn't be sending information to the IT guys, right? But let's just say one day by accident, Billy then sends an email to Chad. Chad then emails that over to his Yahoo account. Now, once we've passed that barrier, we have absolutely no control what happens out here. All right, so it's out of our control. We can't do anything about it. And then what we want to do is then track all the emails that get sent, whether it's internal as well as external. So we can see who is passed it over to, who opened it, and where it went to from there as well. Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want to track our emails. We want to ensure that we have sufficient background checks in place. We want to make sure our team have proper training, physical security. We want to have clear policies, and we have to enforce them 150%. We have to make sure that our team and the people follow the processes 110% of the time. Guys, this has been super fun. I hope you had a lot of fun with this series. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know what you thought. As always, guys, you have been absolute rock stars. I love everything that we're doing together. If you have found this super interesting, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you found this course, and we'll continue on into the very next series of scanning systems. Guys, I'll see you on the other side. I'll see you soon.